If you are going to the effort of putting a costed platform together in front of Canadians, and we all sat around this table and said how important it was to have a costed platform, and we all talked about how challenging it was because of so many uncertainties, why can't you do the same thing for a budget?
The election is not over. Welcome back to Moose and Loose. My name's David. Today we have another riding that's getting more votes. We're talking about Nunavut. Not only Nunavut, we also got new news coming out of Terrebonne. There's more people with more ballots. We got a ton of other stuff. Let's jump into this. So starting this one off, we've got almost half of Canadians saying Prime Minister Carney stood up for the country in Trump meeting. That's coming from this poll here. That's not this exact one. This one here is awareness of the meeting between Prime Minister Carney and Donald Trump. So only 80% of Canadians knew this meeting even happened. 20% no idea. That's a pretty startling statistic. This one here shows perceived impact Carney-Trump meeting. So basically 40% of people said it had really no impact, them meeting. 24% improved relations, 13% weakened. This one shows the evaluation of Mark Carney's handling of the meeting. Mark Carney clearly stood up for Canadian interests, 48%. Okay, I mean, that basically aligns with the 43% of Canadians who voted for Mark Carney. You know, you add in the NDP, that's what you got right there. And 24% says Mark Carney should have taken a stronger stance toward Donald Trump. This one's interesting. It says support of retaliatory tariffs. It says it right here, dollar for dollar. 67% are strongly in favor or somewhat in favor. And considering Mark Carney secretly removed all the dollar for dollar tariffs, I wonder how people feel about Mark Carney now. Considering we have stuff like this that Kirk posted, it says Ian Bremer, president of the Eurasia Group. This is the same one where Mark Carney's wife worked at. I don't know if she still works there, but Gerald Butts and Evan Solomon both work there. So he goes on to say here, Gerald Butts said that after the election, Mark Carney would fold on his tariffs. Watch the conductor, not the clown. I expect Ottawa will quietly fold shortly after the vote. And then we've got this here. It says Canada's new tariffs on US dropped to nearly zero with exemptions, Oxford Economics. This comes from my previous video. So yeah, we should be paying closer attention to Gerald Butts. And there's a chart here showing the support for dollar tariffs are slipping. They've slipped 10% in the last 2 months here, and it's opposing is going up a bit too. This one shows the behavior of Canadians. So American products being bought in stores. Yes, in decreasing purchasing. 69% of people are decreasing their purchasing of American products. 66% of American products bought online. 55% on Amazon. 51% American food restaurants. And 43% American chains like Costco, Walmart winners. This one here is showing that 9% of people think Trump's tariffs will have a positive effect on our economy. 79% people say negative. Got this one from Table Salt. It says the Canadian canola industry is twice the size of the Canadian auto industry, 43.7 billion versus 19 billion. Why does no one care about Alberta and Saskatchewan? Because Mark Carney is business buddies with Xi Jinping. He doesn't want to rock the boat there. Where is Team Canada? And why does Doug Ford get a monopoly on moralistic flag-waving outrage? Elbows up, right? Because Ontario has 14 cabinet ministers and Alberta has 1. That's why. I haven't done the tally yet, but according to this map here, there's 11, not 14 in Ontario. But either way, that's why Doug Ford's getting the love and Scott Moe is not. 0 ministers from Saskatchewan. 2 ministers in BC, 1 for the rest of the West. 11 Ontario, 7 Quebec, and a couple in the Maritimes. Moving on here, we've got a poll from Ballot. It says most Albertans want the Smith government to plan on how to separate, and most being 51%. Half the country wants a plan to separate, according to this poll. In contrast, we're seeing stuff like this from CTV, where some Alberta business leaders say questions about separation are already having a negative effect on provincial investment. I don't know if this is true or this is just what mainstream media is trying to paint a picture of, whether it's hurting business. We have this one here also from CTV saying Polyev says the lack of federal budget sends a bad signal to investors. So this is quoting him. And this is true. Not having a budget, Mark Carney, the economic genius, supposed genius, not tabling a budget, really says a lot about him trying to hide how he's spending our money, not being transparent about spending our money. Next up, we got this nutcase here. This is Mark Carney's Secretary of State on Nature. That's right. That's a real title. She's a real eco-climate nut, just like Stephen Guilbeault. She's the female Stephen Guilbeault.
Is this at all about hunting, Madame Provost? Just given who you are and your advocacy on guns?
I worked in the last 10 years for the Environment Department in Quebec, so I'm very, very proud of this assignation.
Ça prend combien de temps créer un parc national?
Je vais l'apprendre, monsieur.
Do you think there needs to be new pipelines in Canada?
Sorry?
New pipelines in Canada? Do you think that should happen?
It can happen. We have to think about many, many aspects. We have to think about energy. We have also to think about nature. So thank you very much.
Didn't like that question. She got out of there. She doesn't want to say no because she doesn't want to get in trouble from the boss. She's useless. She knows nothing about anything. Her appointment was to send a message. Her body language answered the question, even if her words did not. Exactly. I want to know how she won her riding. Who would vote for her? I guess there's a lot of eco-climate nuts in Quebec, so that's who voted for her. Makes me nervous. Now she's an expert on pipelines. Moving on to election news. So this is the girl who had the one vote that would tie the whole Terrebonne riding situation. Well, now it turns out there's 5. As it says here, Terrebonne election office couldn't count 5 late ballots, block Quebecois to challenge results. At this point, they have to do a by-election because this is ridiculous. So it says 5 ballots were received late at Elections Canada office in Quebec's Terrebonne riding were not able to be counted, the agency confirmed Thursday. These 5 were also received because of the error in the postal code. So Elections Canada crapped the bed here. It's time for a by-election. Stop wasting time with this. They should just do it immediately. Not only that, we've got this one now. Nunavut election results not validated as ballot box held up in cargo by blizzard. Oh, really? This clown show is endless. The NDP incumbent, Lori Idolt, won the unofficial result by 77 votes over Liberal candidate Cpac Kabluna. Elections Canada has a validation process to confirm the unofficial count completed on election night, but the final box from the community of Nunavut has not made it to the Inuit to be tallied. Inuit was hit by a rare late spring blizzard on Thursday, canceling flights into the capital, leaving the community without power for about 7 hours. So apparently there are fewer than 100 votes in that ballot box, considering it's 77 votes. If you were to split it even 50-50, they're not winning that. But maybe there's 100 Liberal votes in there. Who knows? Moving ahead here, we've got Kate Harrison blasting the CBC, as she always does.
Cameron is right. Canadians voted for economic and fiscal management through uncertain times. They voted for Mark Carney more as an individual than they did as Liberal Party leader to be that person to table that plan and to lead us through the greatest crisis of our lifetime. That is his words, not mine. So to approach your early days with no plan, no budget that you're tabling, and it doesn't need to be a fixed, finite document forever, right?
But does no budget mean no plan, or does it just mean no budget? No. Right?
Well, I would say that if
Little David Cochrane just trying his best to help out his buddy Mark Carney. Does no budget mean no plan? No budget is no plan. The budget is the plan. That's how we hold the government accountable.
If you are going to the effort of putting a costed platform together in front of Canadians, and we all sat around this table and said how important it was to have a costed platform, and we all talked about how challenging it was because of so many uncertainties, why can't you do the same thing for a budget? Finance Canada has been at work ever since Justin Trudeau abdicated his responsibility as Prime Minister. Where is it? Like Francois Philippe Champagne was working on it. Again, this doesn't need to be a 400, 500 page document, but Canadians elected this Prime Minister in particular to guide us through these economically uncertain times, to say, we'll get back to you in 4 months, is an abdication of leadership.
I think
Or maybe, well,
I think the temperature's a little bit higher. This is exacerbated in part as well because we have not had a budget in more than a year.
yes.
And so, you know, had we seen a budget tabled in an earlier part of the year, had we seen a budget in February, I think this conversation and the temperature around it would be a lot lower. And I think there would be a lot more, at least in terms of the early reaction or the early criticism, I think there'd be a lot more leeway to say, look, you know, we've been through some unprecedented times. We need time to figure our stuff out. It's been 13 months. I think that is amping this.
That is exactly why. They're dodging accountability. Again, hand over the SDTC documents. Name the traitors. Remember that? We still don't know who those traitors are. CBC is part of the deficit. In one of Harper's wins, he released a budget 1 month of being sworn in. Carney doesn't want us to know how bad the Liberals' last 10 years have been. Next up, we got this one. Canadian Tire is trying to buy the Bay. As Mark Nixon posts, $30 million is cheap. That's right. All it'll take is $30 million for Canadian Tire to buy up the Bay. Hudson's Bay company brand, logos, coat of arms, and the iconic intellectual properties and merch if court approves. As this guy says, this is a smart move. Yeah, this is a smart move. This is an iconic brand, and that's pretty cheap considering. It's pretty sad considering, as it says here, 350-year HBC legacy. The company ultimately received 17 bids. Canadian Tire's focused on intellectual property, but also include a bid for a handful of lease locations. It's unclear whether the company intends to run those locations as Bay stores or use them for its other brands. products. We've got Loblaws warning shoppers that food prices will soon go up because of new tariffs, making products more expensive to bring in. Meanwhile, we've got posts like this. In 1952, the New York Times declared Canada was awakening to an era of immense economic potential. Our resources, oil, gas, minerals, and vast land were poised to feel a boom like America's century before. Yet 70 years later, we're still waiting. That's right, we're still waiting for this economic boom. The Liberals are just going to drag this out another 2, 3, 4, however many years. Add in Trudeau's years, 14 years, maybe never. Maybe we'll never have the boom. Next up in the Carney Clown Show, we've got this one here. Carney did his Trump-style signing of the document, which means nothing. This isn't how Parliament works. You can't just sign a document like this. We don't have executive orders in Canada, but that's how Mark Carney's playing things with his good buddy Donald Trump. Now he's getting heckled pretty bad for this, as it says, note of instruction, middle-class tax cut to deliver on the government's commitment of a middle-class income tax cut. I hereby instruct the marginal tax rate on the lowest tax bracket to be reduced by 1 percentage point effective July 1, 2025. This is pitiful, man. It's $33 per month per person. That's what it works out to be. It's almost nothing. This is all for show. This is just to look like Donald Trump. This is not how our system works. This has to go through Parliament to get changed. Just think, Justin Trudeau never did this. The Liberals love to say that Pierre Poilievre is just like Trump, mini Trump. It turns out, no, Mark Carney is the mini Trump. Literally, he's a tiny man and he's acting just like Trump. The whole hand motion thing he did when he was meeting with Donald Trump.
Savings for two-income households. We're acting today on that. As we look to build out this economy, it's my pleasure on behalf of the Cabinet to sign
Remarkably similar.
to deliver that tax cut. Et respecter nos engagements.
We hope they come out tonight.
Well, the Canadiens.
Carney's got to learn this trick to hold it up for the cameras to really ham it up a bit. Aside from that, they're pretty similar. And with that, we've got Garnet Genuous making fun of Mark Carney, because why not?
On behalf of myself and my family, I'm pleased to sign this piece of paper, which has absolutely no legal significance. For tous les Canadiens et Canadiennes. Merci beaucoup.
That's funny. It's my pleasure to sign this document announcing my intention to begin directing my finance minister to start looking into delivering a tax cut for Canadians once Parliament resumes. Yeah, basically. So far, we've already had 2 times Gregor Robertson, the former mayor of Vancouver, has come out and said that housing prices shouldn't come down, but they want to increase affordable housing, which essentially that's an oxymoron. It makes no sense. With that, we've got this tweet. We've got Matt Spook left a question, says, genuine question. I'm writing an op-ed as we speak. How do you make homes more affordable without reducing the price of the current family home? Gregor Robertson replies with, build affordable homes at scale. Yeah, thanks for nothing there. That's not a real answer. Quick question here. Why don't we want the prices of homes to come down? Because the liberal boomers don't want their nest eggs, not only their main house, but their second and third, fourth and fifth houses to go down in value. We got an update here from Honda. So we've mentioned before the major close down of the plant in Ontario. Well, turns out it's a little more complicated than that. It says Honda is moving CRV production from Canada to the US due to tariffs. So what's happening here is they're moving parts of the production of the CRV from America to Canada and then Canada to America. So they're basically producing all the cars that we buy here in Canada. They're producing them in Canada as well as Asia and Europe. And then American-made cars will be sold to Americans to avoid tariffs. With that, though, Honda is postponing, basically canceling $11 billion investment in Honda EV, in Ontario EVs due to slowing demand in North America. They're completely axing this entire sector of this production. Meanwhile, they're increasing their production of not only the CRV, but the RDX, MDX in America. So they're boosting up their production. They're actually moving some of their production from Japan to America to get around the tariffs as well. There's no other way to slice it that Donald Trump is starting to bring in businesses and businesses getting cut from Canada. It's funny, we got this clip here of Doug Ford. He says this is from a month ago. Plot twist, this report was accurate. This report came out saying that Honda was shutting down production in Canada. And he said, no.
Phone with the president of Honda Canada, and they're sending a statement out clarifying what Reuters said. It's not accurate at all. They want to increase production. Down in the U.S., they're at 100% capacity right now. So they're going to make a statement. I'll let them make their statement. But they're saying that's not accurate.
So there's a whole bunch of people in Alliston holding their breath and other factories across Canada. What do you say to that?
Well, we're going to keep Honda here, and I'll do everything I can to protect the people and their jobs. And that's what the Stone speech is all about.
So basically, this was wrong. They are increasing the production in America. They're completely axing out the entire $11 billion EV industry in Canada. They're still maintaining the gas CRVs in Canada by moving some pieces from America. This is basically a big win for America and a big loss for Canada. So next up, I wanted to show this. This was a tweet put out by this girl here at Vice, at Identity Crisis on X, who posted something so awful. I don't know who this person is, but the soulless eyes convey he likely, I can't even read that out, did bad things to animals for fun as a child. At what point is this not okay? What point is this not slander and she should be getting sued for saying stuff like this? I screenshot this and put this on my own X just in case she deleted her post, because I'm seeing way too many posts like this every single day, and there's no consequence to these people. She's obviously making this up, has zero proof of this. At what point does this turn into a situation like where you can't say bomb on a plane? There's a certain level of free speech where damaging someone's reputation isn't okay. And we've got this one from Stephen Guilbeault. So he's now the Canadian identity guy, even though Justin Trudeau said Canada has no identity. We got to wonder, is climate change wrapped into that identity? It says here, CBC to stop paying individual bonuses to employees after controversy. And he says, we welcome this decision by the board. Our government will protect Canada's national identity by strengthening the CBC Radio Canada. That's what Guilbeault's new job is here. He's going to be the government mouthpiece for the CBC, national culture and identity guy. Taxpayers should not be funding this. If they're so valuable, they can get advertisers. You look in the comments, there's not a lot of friendly comments towards Stephen Guilbeault. The update to this story is now that the executives are just having their bonuses put into their salaries. So essentially, they did nothing. Meanwhile, in Canada, we've got video surfacing here of extremely long Toronto jobs fair. Yeah. I mean, we see this everywhere. This is Canada now. This is what people voted for. They wanted more of this, so that's what you're going to get. That is what they're going to get. Next up, we got this one from Kirk. It says a trucker in Brampton, of course, was caught trying to bring street candy into Canada for distribution. Gershinder Singh was arrested with $3 million worth of the Cocoa White Bam Bam powder. Canada's trucking industry is at the center of North American street candy trafficking. Same demographics and the same are often caught. Where this flow of street candy is headed and where it is getting cut and distributed from. Just another day in Canada. Long lost are the days where we have safe streets, good jobs, and a good life. Those days are gone. Liberal boomers voted to get rid of that for the rest of Canada.